It's to generate the speed of the line to load up the rod. It's the fundamental of fly casting. No more, no less. That's all we're talking about here. The static movement of that roll cast can be harnessed and moved in exactly the same way as you would do with any other code. So, if it's static like so you just try it. It's still going to come. If that line is in front of the rod, as Mo has done with the it's not. You've got nothing. You've got nothing coming against that tip. You've got nothing to generate speed or energy. So therefore, you can't get a cast. It's going to collapse. As soon as I bring this line back, now I can load this rod against that movement, even if it dug into that lovely. Actually, you could pretend you're fishing a bonefish. So, I could be catching the first ever Somerley bonefish. Sorry, I'm going. There comes a point. And what I want you to do is watch where the tip ends up with that fly rod. Now, if I want to cast into a breeze, it's no earthly good me pushing through like that because I'll open that loop out. As I push down, I'll open that loop out of the fraction. And all I'm doing is pushing through, really. I'm pushing through and down. And the temptation, and I'm beginning to see it. Jim, you'll bear me out here. Look, he's having a crafty sip. I didn't even know you smoked. That's just...
I'll try not to, Charles.
That's just outrageous. You're beginning to see an awful lot of people putting the shoulder in like so. It's called a guide cast in America. Why they do it? Because if you do that, you're actually asking for trouble because you're pushing this rod tip down. It's the same as what I saw yesterday at Lechley. I nearly burst into tears. My age, that's not into a breeze. And that was the result. I was just trying too hard.
Could have only been me.
It was striving for the far bank and pushing it and trying to throw it. Look at the result. Right, let's just stop that rod tip. Look at the result. Very different. And I've suddenly brought that rod into play. Line's gone back. Brilliant, because the wind's coming behind us. Straighten that line out. Pop. You're just converting that forward. You can do it in the classic way there. You can do it left-leg baseball style. You can do it the lead and the sort of the current vogue of long drift, fast hands. It all works. It doesn't make any difference. What's happening? That's all about style. It's all about application. What's happening is that line's straight behind and you're moving it forwards with that rod tip. So you're moving that load back there. If there's any interruption there, there'll be interruption in front. If it isn't straight back there, it's certainly not going to be straight back there. So that, even at the risk of getting the distance that you strive for, do the distance. Sooner or later, even if it went halfway across this little bit of stream here, it will end up into this bank and be in a fishable position. So surely it's much better to make good presentations there than bad presentations out there. And if you ever want a really good illustration of that, go grading. Go grading fishing, whether you're check nymphing or doing leader to hand. Sorry.
Only two spits.
What?
Only two spits there.
Just the two. It is Sunday. It is Sunday, isn't it? But whatever you're doing, I've found that if you get it all right, you don't have to cast the wrong way. And yesterday, it
Need some punters now.
Yep, they're all welcome.
And you find yourself in places, especially in those
rotate my shoulder. I'm not an owl. I've got to rotate my shoulder. So what's going to happen? Here's that straight line here. If I just rotate my shoulder, look at the rod tip. It's come right off track. You know where that line's going? It's going a big curve behind me. So from there on in, you're playing catch up. You're fighting the forward straight line. And this is a lot where, if you've ever caught your rod or your line's crossed itself, that's why. It's because your line, your cast is all, if this is the fly line, you've twisted into the back cast and the line's going in that direction. You come forward straight, but the line's coming from this direction across the rod. Across the rod. It's almost like I can probably simulate that, actually. Right, so, if I cast forward with the toe of the line, and you'll see exactly what I mean. If I now try and go straight, the line should have jumped across the rod. It's the equivalent of a roll cast of doing this, going across the line. I'm sure you spay guys have done that. Absolutely sure at some point through the process. So, how do I negate? See, how do I negate that body rotation? In order for me to adopt a stance to look at that fly line, I have to change the way I stand. I'll do it this way. So, imagine me wanting to go for distance. This stance here, to go over the shoulders, and I want to look at this line. And there you go, it's now coming behind me now, look, because I'm trying to, slightly exaggerated that look, you can see the lines chucking in behind me here. So how can I adopt a stance that allows me to look at the line without body rotation? And that's just to open the stance. So going from this stance here, which is what we regard as a closed, into an open stance. And you'll notice that I've almost turned sideways. What it allows me to do is turn my head without any body rotation at all. So therefore, that will allow me to stay in the same plane. Now it doesn't matter whether I'm vertical or at that plane. One is put yourself into a situation where you do have an obstacle and I'll do it. If I make the back cast, when I make the back cast, make the back cast. And before you make that forward cast, turn your head and nail your target.